friends! Welcome to this special episode of Yarny Heart Fiber Art. My name is Jess. You can find me on Instagram at Yarny Heart, and this is the show where I talk about all the yarny things that I get up to. So this is not going to be a typical knitting podcast. This is a special episode. I mentioned in my most recent podcast that I just went to Korea with my boyfriend in December, and I purchased a lot of yarn while I was there. So this is going to be a special episode where I'm talking about all of the yarn stores that I went to in Korea this year, and all of the yarn that I purchased from those stores during my trip. So you may remember, but I made a very similar video to this one last year when I went to Korea with my mom and my grandma. And some of the stores in this video are going to be repeats of stores from that video, but I do also have a couple new stores to add to the list. And of course, the stores that I previously visited, I did buy new and different things from those stores as well. So I will be going over some repeat stores. But if you are interested in more yarn store recommendations from Korea, make sure you check out my other video. I'm going to put a card for it up here. I forget which side of the screen cards go on, but there will be a card here somewhere. I'm going to, as best I can, kind of like talk about these yarn stores that I went to in order, more or less. But things might get a little mixed up along the way. I had a lot more yarn stores on my radar this time around than I did last year, but I did not have the chance to visit all of the yarn stores that I had pinned. And actually I found one out of the blue, like kind of just walking past it on a different day of my trip, but that store was not open on that particular day, and I didn't have enough time to go back and visit it again. So if you are interested in a video with just kind of my personal yarn store pins for Korea, both ones that I have been to and ones that I haven't been to, if you're interested in a video that's kind of detailing that list, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. But for now, I'm just gonna get into the stores that I did go to. So the first yarn store that I went to, I did actually find by complete accident. And so this store is in Dongdaemun, which is kind of an older area, but Dongdaemun is traditionally known for their textiles, and Dongdaemun Sijang, which is kind of like the main market in Dongdaemun. Allegedly and apparently there is a large section of Dongdaemun Sijang that is primarily yarn. And the people who've been there say that the yarn there is very cheap, and you can buy it in large quantities for very affordable prices. So I wanted to find that section of Dongdaemun Sijang while we were in the area for the day, but I couldn't find it. Like, it's not like there's not exactly a very reliable map of the area. So I was just kind of wandering around a little bit, and I ended up buying some other things instead, but got sidetracked from really looking for the yarn section of the market. So I was not able to find it. If you have been to Dongdaemun Sijang and you know like where and how to find like the yarn marketplace area of it, please let me know. Please, like, I'm genuinely asking you, please leave me a comment and let me know where it is and how to find it, because I was stumped. I was kind of like walking in circles and I just kind of gave up after a while. But I've heard tell that there is a large yarn section in Dongdaemun Sijang. Wasn't able to find it. But instead, the place that I did go to in Dongdaemun, it was actually right outside of the train station, which is the only reason why I found it at all. And like I said, I found it by complete accident. It wasn't on my radar whatsoever. But once we exited the subway station in Dongdaemun, like at Dongdaemun station, we were on our way to a particular restaurant for breakfast. But as we were walking down the sidewalk, I noticed that there was like this archway leading into an alley that was covered in crocheted and knitted items. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think there's a yarn store in there. So we kind of like peeked in a little bit, but we were really hungry. So we kind of made a mental note of like, okay, let's have breakfast first and then we'll come back and we'll investigate this store a little more. So after we had breakfast, we came back to where that storefront had been. And turns out it really was a yarn store. So sorry, this bag is like so crinkly, so I'm really sorry if it's interfering with my audio. So the store that we found, and I need to pull up my Kakao map again to find it, the name of it. But this store was called yeonil's homyu. So basically it's called in English, or how you would find it on Kakao map or Naver map in English would be yeonil Textile Headquarters and Experience Store is what the English name is. But yeonil is apparently, I didn't even know this existed, but apparently yeonil is a yarn brand in Korea. I think there might be other yarn stores that stock their yarn, but this is the headquarters store. And I have like only one picture of this store because I was just very excited to find it out of the blue. And what's really nice about this store is their yarn is very, very affordable because it's basically like buying it direct with no middleman. So it was really nice. And so I purchased a sweater quantity of this really nice burgundy yarn. This yarn is their house brand, yeonil. So sorry, I guess to backtrack, in the store they do carry a lot of varieties of their house brand. And then they do also have other brands that they stock in that store, but they have everything. Like they have every fiber content that you could think of. Like they had a lot of acrylic things also, but they did have a lot of wool. They had alpaca, they had silk mohair. They had an entire wall that was just silk mohair, but I couldn't think of anything that I could make with it right away. But they had so much variety in this store and it was very exciting. They had a lot of plant fibers as well, like cotton and stuff, but I was kind of looking more for animal fiber wool. So I ended up getting a sweater quantity of this, it's called Rook's wool, and it's from their in-house brand. So this is a 10 ply. I'm assuming it's about like a worsted weight. I haven't really like tested the gauge or like the wraps per inch or anything like that yet. But one thing is that Korean yarn doesn't use the same like yarn categories that the US does. So it's kind of like not necessarily a one-to-one. So, but just kind of from feeling it and looking at like the recommended needle size, I'm kind of guessing that this is, what's it called, like a worsted weight-ish. And actually, I don't even know if they have the yardage on here. They have the weight, but I actually don't think they have the yardage on here because I remember like trying really hard to guess what the yardage would probably be just based on the weight and based on like the thickness. And so I ended up buying 15 of these balls, and I figured that that would probably be enough for whatever I would make out of it. But it's surprisingly soft for stinking cheap it was. I'm pretty sure I got this entire sweater quantity for about 20-25 US dollars, if that, honestly. Like I feel like it might have even been less than that, but it's really nice. So this yarn is 90% wool and 10% premium acrylic. But it feels pretty woolly. Like it feels pretty woolly. It also feels pretty hard wearing. They had a sweater knit up out of this yarn as a sample, and the sweater felt very sturdy. But even so, I'm thinking that I might want to make a cardigan with this. Of course, right after I bought it, I was like very excited about like project planning and stuff. So I started researching like what projects I could possibly make with it. And I stumbled upon this pattern called the Little Bow Erin, something like that. I forget exactly what the name is, but I'll put the picture here. I stumbled upon this cardigan. I thought it would be super cute in this like red, like this deep red burgundy kind of color. Yeah, the one thing about this wool, and I feel like a lot of the colors they had there, they were very vibrant, which I don't typically mesh well with like very vibrant colors. Like as you can tell today, I'm wearing like kind of like a more muted pastel kind of red. But I really liked this deep burgundy, and especially because at the moment I had kind of realized that out of all of like my yarn that I have, I didn't really have like, or all of my sweaters that I've knitted, especially having just finished my Christmas knit, I kind of realized that I didn't really have like a true red, or if I did, I didn't really have like enough of them, or one that was suited to winter. Like this is very much a summer kind of t-shirt. It's a little warmer today. I picked up this color and I think it was a really good choice. Like the shop owner even complimented me on the color choice, but I'm really excited to work with this. And I think I think on my next Korea trip, this store is definitely going to be a revisit for me. You can't beat the prices. Like the prices of everything in this store were just so great, for lack of a better word. And I think definitely I will have more thoughts to share once I've actually worked with this yarn and kind of like seen how it holds up and stuff. But just from feeling it, it feels very sturdy. It's also a 10 ply, so I think it's going to be pretty resistant to pilling. I'm so grateful that I happened to find it because, like I said, it was just not on my radar whatsoever, and so it really was pure luck that I found it at all. They do have like very large quantities in stock, because they had, like, when you're in the store, they only really have like one 10-pack of these out at a time, but if you ask the store owner for more, she has back stock and she will check the lot lot as well, because it is the headquarters store. They have large quantities of each lot, and so you'll be able to get a large quantity with whatever dye lot the yarn is in. So yeah, this was, like I said, great find. I'm definitely coming back here. Okay, so the next store that I visited is one that I have seen making the rounds on Instagram, particularly within the past year, not so much last year, I feel like. But this place is called Cafe Merino. So you may be familiar with banul iagi, which is, I went there again this year, but banul iagi, otherwise known as banul story, is kind of like the main viral knitting cafe that you usually see on Instagram when people go to Korea. But there have been a couple more knitting cafes that have been popping up in Korea. The only one that I got to visit this time around was Cafe Merino, but I know there's some other ones. I think there's one in Gangnam that opened semi-recently, and then I think there's one kind of out past Tamsil, which is kind of more on the outskirts, that I really wanted to go to, but it was just kind of too out of the way that I couldn't really justify making the trip out there. But this cafe is called Cafe Merino. It's in the Seoul Forest neighborhood. So I spent a couple hours there just kind of sitting and knitting. And my boyfriend, instead of sitting there with me for a couple of hours, this was also towards the part of our trip, like the back half of our trip. So I was kind of tired. We'd been really pushing ourselves physically like every day, and I was like, you know what, I think I really just need a couple of hours in a cafe to knit. So while I kind of hung around in Cafe Merino and got myself a little coffee and a little bite to eat and just knitting there, my boyfriend took the opportunity and went walking around the Seoul Forest Park, which is the nature preserve that is just a little I'm honestly like a couple blocks away from this cafe. So if you're interested in that and kind of combining your day with the trip to Seoul Forest, that is definitely something you can do. It was also raining on that particular day that we did this, on this day of our trip, and so it was really nice and cozy to be able to just stay inside of a knitting cafe and spend a couple of hours just kind of recharging. They do have some yarn for sale. It is not nearly as big of a yarn selection as any of the other places that I went to on this trip, but they did have some yarn for sale, and of course I really wanted to buy some at the very least as like a souvenir from the trip. I would say the vibes inside of Cafe Merino were really nice. One thing was their knitting chairs were so perfectly optimized for knitting, and I really want one. The chairs inside this cafe are very low to the ground, and they kind of have like a backwards tilt to them, but they're tilted at the perfect angle for you to be looking down at your knitting in your lap with your elbows resting and not be like craning your neck like this, you know? So they were really nice knitting chairs. They also had these little like, I guess similar to like a newspaper stand. Is that what they're called? Like the little X frame things that hold books or whatever. They had those on the ground, specifically for holding like your purse, and holding like your, like the bag that you're knitting out of. So that was really nice. And the ambiance was awesome, and like I said, we went in December, so everything was decorated for Christmas. They do have a second floor. I didn't really go up to the second floor, but they do have a second floor. I believe that's where they host classes, but there's also another knitting space up there that's kind of like, there's more couches and stuff like that. So that would probably be better if you were there like with a group of people. But the downstairs was kind of really nice for solo knitters, or at most like if you had like one other friend that you were bringing with you. But it was a really nice experience, very relaxing. And the yarn that I purchased from here, so I got this, and this is like from their house brand as well. So this is alpaca brush, like I said, by their house brand Cafe Merino. And so this is a pretty typical like lace weight fluffy yarn. The particular blend of this is 35% baby alpaca, 10% merino wool, 37% acrylic, and 18% nylon. So it is like more of an acrylic alpaca blend. But I got 3 balls of these, which should be enough for me to make a sweater, because these are 400 meters each. 400 meters and about 50 grams a ball. So I got 3 of these. I thought this color was very pretty. It's kind of like it's beige, but it's kind of leaning more like latte. A lot of my time in the store section of the cafe was spent just like flip-flopping between different color choices. And I think I eventually settled on this one, even though I had just finished knitting something that was kind of in like the beige color family. I feel like I was trying to think of things that I didn't have in my like knitted collection. And I feel like I'm kind of lacking something that's kind of more of like a dark tan, light brown situation. And so even though this is kind of trending beige, I think what I want to do is when I find something to pair with this, I kind of want to lean more on like the light brown side to kind of bring out a little more of like that light brown tone from this yarn. But it's really soft. And I mean, if you've been following my podcast for a little bit, you probably have already figured out that I'm a big fan of alpaca. I feel like I'm a much bigger fan of alpaca than I am like a mohair necessarily. So it was really nice to find some nice alpaca yarn from this from Cafe Merino that I could kind of have as a souvenir. Yeah, I think also part of it was the yarn here was more pricey than other places that I'd been to in Korea, both this year and last year. So for me getting any, and I'm not really an accessories knitter at all, so I'm kind of at the point in my life now where unless it's like a single skein of sock yarn that I can use to make socks, I pretty much don't buy anything that's not a sweater quantity, just because I know that I won't use it, unfortunately. And so for me, looking for something in this store in a sweater quantity was pretty much impossible, because a lot of the things, pretty much everything in this store was a 50-gram ball. And granted, everything in yeonil was also a 50-gram ball, but you could buy them in large quantities. In Cafe Merino, it felt less like a yarn store and very much more like a display case. Like, yes, all the yarn was for sale, but they kind of had very limited quantities of everything on hand. And so it was kind of like more, it seemed to be a lot of stuff was more for show than anything. So it was really hard to get a sweater quantity's worth of any of the other yarns. And at the price point that it was at, I don't actually remember exactly how much I paid for this a piece, but I remember it being more comparable to yarn prices in the US as opposed to yarn prices in Korea. So I did splurge a little bit, but I really wanted it. But along those lines, getting a sweater quantity of any of the other yarns that they had for sale would have been much pricier, it would have really added up. And so for me, wanting to come away with something to show at least, I did end up getting this lace weight alpaca fluffy. So that was my purchase from Cafe Merino. The drinks and coffee there were very good. I had a coffee, and then I also had an apple yuja tea, which was very delicious. So basically yuja cha is a Korean citron tea that is kind of made with like a citron marmalade, I guess you could call it. But you mix it with hot water and it creates a citron tea. And so the apple yuja tea is like a bag of apple tea, and then they put yuja cha in it, so it's kind of like combined. Yuja cha is used a lot as like a cold remedy. At that point in the trip, I think I was kind of coming down with something. So it was really nice to kind of have that. Plus it was really cozy. And then the pastries also looked very good. I think when we were there, I think we might have had a vanilla cannelé, and I think we also had a honey butter toast, and both of them were very delicious. So I highly recommend the food at Cafe Marina, the food and drinks and the knitting experience. But I will say, don't go there. I wouldn't go there with the intent of stocking up on yarn. However, atmospherically and as a knitting spot and kind of like a little relaxation stop, highly recommend. The vibes, I highly recommend for the vibes, not so much the shopping. My fourth yarn stop in Korea is my favorite yarn store in the world that I also mentioned on my previous podcast. I went to somsom knit again, and I kind of went crazier this time than I did last time. So last year when I went to somsom knit, I expressed disappointment that I had not visited last, because because I visited first and I hadn't gone to any of the other yarn stores on my list at that point. I didn't buy as much as I probably would have if I'd visited last. Because I was kind of holding back. I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna find at these other yarn stores that are on my list. So I'm gonna hold back, and I'm not going to go too crazy and blow my budget and also my suitcase space. But it ended up being my favorite yarn store out of all the places that I visited. So this year, I specifically carved out time in like the second to last day that we were there, specifically to go to somsom knit, knowing the kind of stock that they have there. One thing to note, somsom knit, I have a fuzz in my lip. One thing to note is that somsom knit has at this point moved locations. While we were on the trip, I saw her like upload the moving post, and my heart dropped into my stomach. I was like, no, please, like, please don't move yet. But then it turned out that the moving date was in January. So I was good, I was safe, and able to go still. But at this point in time, they are no longer in the location that they were when I visited. I am going to post a screenshot of where they are now on Kakao Map. So if you are interested in going, you can go to their new location. But I didn't take any pictures inside of somsom knit this time around, mostly because it was so busy in there and it was packed with people. And I'm assuming that it was packed with people specifically because of the moving announcement. They weren't necessarily running any specials, but I think for a lot of people it was kind of like, one, to like help out the store and like have less inventory to move, but also I think it was kind of like, it was a lot of publicity, which was really good for the store. So I'm happy that it was very busy, but unfortunately that did mean that their stock was a little bit lower than the last time I'd been there. They did seem to be pretty cleared out, but I was still able to find a lot of things that I was very excited to bring home. So let me just go into what I bought. The first thing I'll share, this is a yarn that I purchased last year, but I purchased one more sweater quantity in this white color. This is New Bottom, which is 90% Tasmania wool, 10% cashmere. If you remember last year, I knitted the Alvar pullover by Sari Nordland in this exact yarn in kind of a more rust orange color. But I wanted some more, and I also wanted to have another like cream sweater in my inventory. I feel like one can never have enough cream sweaters. So this is the colorway iBuddy, aka Ivory. And these cones come with, I'm doing math right now, 500 meters in a cone, and these are 200 grams each. And this is about a DK weight, judging from the last time that I knitted with this yarn. I loved this yarn so much that I specifically wanted to buy more of this particular base. It's super soft, super easy to work with, really pill resistant, which I was very surprised at how pill resistant it was, given that it's like 10% cashmere, but very pill resistant, but still soft with the cashmere. This is like my favorite yarn at this point. Yeah, so I feel like there's not too many additional and new fun things to say about this yarn since I have purchased it before and I just got more. But just let me live a little bit. Like, let me sing the praises of this yarn a little bit. So I have a total here of 1,500 meters between these three cones, which should be plenty for any cabled sweater that I want to knit. But I'm very excited. Yeah, I mean, like I said, not a very interesting purchase, but a purchase that I was very excited for. I bought so much yarn this year, I had to put it in 2 bags, and I mean, I feel like a less confident version of me would have felt embarrassed, but I was really just so excited to be there that I couldn't be bothered. So this yarn is one that I did not buy. Neither of these are ones that I bought last year, so I'm very excited about both of them. But this one is called, okay, this one is called Ploppy. And if you couldn't tell, that is a Koreanization of fluffy in English. So fluffy is a lace weight, 17% cashmere, 45% mercerized wool, 34% nylon, 4% span. I'm not sure what that is, but oh, spandex. Got it. Okay. Is it stretchy? Oh, it is a little bit slightly stretchy. That's exciting. So it's basically a lace weight fluffy, except in this particular case, the fluffy is cashmere instead of a mohair or an alpaca. But if you kind of look at the strand, sorry, it's focusing. Sorry for the Snoopy Band-Aid. I cut myself cooking the other day. But if you look at the strand, it does have this really nice halo, but it's not crazy. You know, it's not like a mohair, and it's not even really like an alpaca. It's just very subtle, a very subtle halo, but it's super soft. I cannot stress to you how soft this yarn is, which makes sense because it's cashmere. This is very exciting. I'm very, very excited about this one. This is in the color Rose, I believe. Yeah, Roju. So this is the color Rose. I just realized that this is the same color that I'm wearing. I'm gagged. If you couldn't tell that I have like very strong color preferences, I feel this, why does this happen to me so often? Like, I'll be somewhere where there is yarn, I will get excited about yarn, I will spend forever agonizing about like, oh, what color haven't I used lately? Oh, what color don't I have? What color is missing in my stash right now? And then I'll buy the yarn, and then inevitably I'll come home, and sometimes it's not when I'm filming a video, but if you've been watching for a while, a lot of times it happens when I'm filming the video. I'll realize that I already, yeah. Anyway, this is the colorway Rose. And then this yarn is called Fluffy. This has a lot in it. So this is a 100-gram cone. And it has 2,000 meters in one cone. So I'm going to have plenty for a sweater and then some. There is a Scrap Buster sweater that I've had my eye on for a while that specifically uses lace weight fluffy yarns held double. And I think I think I'm getting there in terms of being close enough on my lace weight fluffy scraps to knit it. It's called the Joe sweater. I think I highlighted it a couple, oh God, it was a year ago. I highlighted it last year in my winter pattern roundup, I believe, but it's called the Joe sweater. I think I'm getting close, and I really like the palette that I'm kind of coming up with for that sweater. It's kind of like this muted, because I have baby pink from last year's Korea trip, and I have a couple other like rosy, I think I have like a Isayer silk mohair that's kind of a slightly more red than this. So I'm kind of liking the color palette that I'm building up for that, but yep, very exciting. So to go with this, I purchased this yarn, and I feel like the color match is not exact, but I feel like it's pretty close, or it's close enough, you know what I mean? So I purchased this yarn, which one of these cones is a sweater quantity, which is crazy to me. Like all of this yarn, by the way, oh, so I have, let me put this, I don't have any spot to put this right now. So these are the same yarn, but I purchased this one for myself, and I purchased this one to knit my boyfriend something. So these two cones, which each of these are sweater quantity, like I said, I think each is, oh my God, I can't do math. Each of these is 1,600 meters, and these were 48,000 won each. So like 30 US dollars, something in that range each. And like these are each a sweater quantity. So between these two and then this one and then this sweater quantity here, I think I spent about, doing math, I know I spent less than 200,000 won. I'm pretty sure I spent about $119 for 3 sweaters. $119 for 3 sweaters, and like these are not cheap materials, you know, like there's cashmere and there's, I haven't even gotten to these yet, but, and it's like having knitted with this yarn before, like there's no catch. Like I remember the first time I was like, okay, but they're like, surely there must be a catch. Like surely I'm gonna knit it up and then it's gonna start pilling or like falling apart or something, because there's no way it can be this cheap. No, it's just that cheap. It's like this yarn is the stuff that I bought last year is my favorite yarn that I've ever worked with. And so at this price point, it's just crazy. Like it's just crazy. I can't explain it other than it's just crazy. It's just so much for so little. So I got 3 sweater quantities for I believe like about 119 US dollars, which is just insane. You just can't beat that. Anyway, I totally got on a complete tangent, but I bought these 2 cones, which are each a sweater quantity. And this yarn is called Cozy. This colorway is called Dry Rose. So this color is called Dry Rose, which will go with, I don't know, Wet Rose. Is that what you would call this? But these are both rose themed. And then this colorway is called Ashy Gray. So ash gray. This is yarn that I saw last year, but I was like too intimidated by, so I didn't buy any. I no longer intimidated, and I bought it this year. This is 30% raccoon, 30% super fine merino wool, and 40% nylon. So this does have more nylon in it than the other yarns, but the raccoon is very intriguing to me. And when I felt the swatch, it was so soft. It was like ridiculously soft. So I'm very excited to see how this knits up, and how it is. I don't really have a pattern in mind for this one. So these are, I believe, a fingering weight. And also with the meterage per cone, I'm kind of guessing like fingering weight. So I'm gonna treat it like a fingering weight. So this will be knitted at a fingering weight. This will be knitted at a DK weight, held together with the lace cashmere. Guys, I cannot stress enough how much I love this store. I think at some point I would really like to try their cotton bases too, because they do have a lot of cotton bases. But I just really love the color story that they have going on, because they do have some bright colors as well, but they have a really great selection of these more muted natural tones, as well as pastels, which are kind of those are very much the colors that I prefer to knit with. And so having such a large selection with such subtle tone variations between the colors is really nice. Like I said, this time when I went, they were a bit more wiped out, but it was because they were preparing to move. So I'm really just happy that I was able to find as much as I did in the quantities that I needed for myself. So yeah, so that was my trip to somsom knit. Okay, so the last stop that I made, this was the same day as somsom knit. At this point, I was like definitely coming down with something, so I was desperately needing a break. So I didn't take any new pictures. I took a few new pictures of just of Christmas stuff, and I suppose I'll put them here. Just of like the Christmas decorations that they have in there now. But since I took a lot of videos last year, I didn't really feel the need to take videos this year. I also wasn't sure if I was going to be doing one of these or not, so I didn't really make a very concerted effort to take videos inside places, particularly places I'd already been before. But I did go back to banul iyagi, aka Banul Story, which, like I said, that's usually the knitting cafe that you see people go to on Instagram, but this is my happy place. Like, I cannot stress enough, banul iyagi is my happy place. So I wanted a couple of hours in there just to knit. I was very sad because I bought some yarn, but I forgot my stamp card from last year, so they had to give me a new one. But I mean, not that I would have filled it out probably, but it's just the principle of the fact that, like, I had a stamp card. I had one that had a couple stamps on it, and I didn't bring it. Like, the one occasion that I had to put more stamps on my stamp card, I didn't bring the stamp card. So anyway, I didn't really buy a whole lot this year. I just realized this yarn and the shirt that I'm wearing right now, this yarn is previously from banul iyagi, the same store. This shirt did not make it into the podcast because I finished it quite a while ago. And I just did a recap of like things that I recently finished, but I guess just really quickly, this shirt was knitted with airy cotton from banul iyagi. And I don't even know what else to say about it. I forgot what the pattern is called already. This is why I already mentioned, this is why I am not doing an everything I knit in 2025, because for instance, like, I can't remember what this pattern is called. But for instance, I bought this yarn last year with the intention of making like a garment. But I feel like I bought other stuff from banul too last year, but I bought the yarn for my darling best from banul also. So I bought like 2 quantities to make not a sweater, but like a garment at least. This year, because it was my very last stop and I knew that I was running up on the limit of how much yarn I could take home, I did want to buy something from the store just for the principle of it, but I didn't want to buy anything huge. But like I said, I don't really need accessories. So what I did end up buying was 2 balls of this nakyang sock yarn in white. So this is called Slow Step, and it's by Nakyang Yarn. So it's a pretty typical sock yarn. I can't remember if it's 100% wool or if it's wool and nylon. Yeah, so 75% merino wool, 25% nylon. So banul iyagi, they produce a lot of their own yarn, but then they also stock a lot of other brands of yarn. I have a feeling there was even some yarn from yeonil in their store, but I wasn't really looking for it. I honestly really wanted to just like maximize my chill knitting time, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time like perusing the yarn store this time around. Also, mainly because I didn't want to get tempted into buying something that I didn't have space for. But I figured I could fit 2 balls of like a sock yarn. Primarily what I bought these for, I am planning to knit the King Salmon light sweater for my boyfriend very soon, and I already bought the main color in a sweater quantity for that, but I knew that I needed to buy a contrast color. And so I bought these primarily to be the contrast color in that sweater. I will most likely only need one of these, but I bought two just in case. And also, like, I feel like you can never have enough white sock yarn. I mean, it's just a good, I feel like, staple thing to have in your stash. Particularly because, like, for instance, for knitting color work, like, it's kind of a universal contrast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can buy any color of fingering weight wool, like, for your main color, and having like one ball of like a white sock yarn will most likely be a good contrast color for that. You know what I mean? So like I bought this more so as a utility thing than anything, but it feels really nice. Like as far as sock yarn goes, it feels like a really squishy, like, it's very squishy. I like it. So that is everything that not everything that I bought in Korea. We don't have time for the video of everything that I bought in Korea, but this is all the yarn that I bought in Korea. It's a pretty large haul, so I'm very satisfied with how much I bought. I mean, I suppose that you all can be the judge, but I'm pretty sure that I bought significantly more yarn this year than I did last year. I also visited one more store than I did last year. And like I said, I didn't even get to go to all of the stores that I wanted to, but I think 4 over the course of a 2-week trip is pretty darn respectable, especially considering the fact that I had stores that I definitely wanted to repeat from last year. So I think 4 stores is pretty darn respectable, and I had to take all of my yarn home in a separate carry-on duffel bag for my luggage. It did not fit in my luggage. But I got it all home, and that's what matters. So yeah, I have no regrets. I am so happy with the yarn that I bought, and I'm so excited. I really wanted to film this video because I want to cast on that king salmon sweater very soon, and I was like, I have to film the video so that I can like use up the yarn so I can touch the yarn instead of just sitting on it to make this video with. So I'm very glad that I got the opportunity to sit down and make this video. And yeah, like I said, I'm very excited to get cracking on this. Let me know in the comments if you have any pattern recommendations for any of the yarn that I shared today. Also, let me know in the comments if you have any yarn stores in Korea that you are personally a fan of that I should consider checking out next. And also let me know if you've been to any of these stores, and if you did, what you thought of them. Did you find any new stores to put on your radar for your next Korea trip? I would love to hear all about that and more, so go ahead and let me know. I think that's all I got for you today. So if you really liked this video, please consider leaving a like, and also consider following my channel for more content like this. I'm really trying to get back into YouTube and kind of more on a regular schedule because I did really miss making videos, and so you can expect to see a lot more from me coming up, and a lot more frequent videos than my posting has been recently. But definitely please follow for more. Thank you so much for coming with me on this journey today, looking through all the yarn that I bought. Hopefully you had fun. I certainly had fun. And until next time, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye!